Old Hollywood wasn't just about glitz and glamour, it was also about curves that made headlines, turned necks, and rewrote beauty standards. In this video, we're looking at some of the most famously well-endowed actresses of classic Hollywood, the women whose figures were as iconic as their films. Eyes kiss mark. So grab your popcorn, and maybe a fan, because things are about to get curvaceous. Let's dive in. Jayne Mansfield was a 1950s Hollywood bombshell best known for her roles in The Girl Can't Help It and Will Success Spoil Rock Hunter. She was often portrayed as a rival to Marilyn Monroe, with studios heavily promoting her exaggerated hourglass figure, reportedly 40-21-35, as part of her public image. Mansfield was a master of publicity, making frequent headlines with her daring fashion choices and playful on-screen persona. Though often typecast in comedic or seductive roles, she was also an accomplished performer with Broadway experience and a high IQ. Her blend of beauty, brains, and boldness made her an enduring symbol of classic Hollywood glamour, even as her career faded in the 1960s before her tragic death in a car accident at age 34. Marilyn Monroe remains one of Hollywood's most iconic figures, celebrated for her beauty, charisma, and talent. Known for classics like Some Like It Hot and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, Monroe's sensual appeal and hourglass figure helped define the 1950s bombshell image. However, beyond her famous looks, she was a skilled actress with notable comedic timing and a depth that many overlooked at the time. Monroe's blend of vulnerability and charm made her performances memorable and enduring. Her impact on film and popular culture continues to influence beauty standards and celebrity culture decades after her passing. She remains a symbol of classic Hollywood glamour and complexity, far beyond just her physical appearance. Sophia Loren, the elegant bombshell Sophia Loren wasn't just a movie star, she was a living symbol of Mediterranean beauty and sensuality. Born in Italy, Sophia rose to fame in the 1950s and 60s with a figure that Hollywood couldn't ignore and a screen presence that made her unforgettable. Known for her curvy silhouette and natural charm, she once joked, "Everything you see, I owe to spaghetti," a quote that became legendary. But Loren's appeal wasn't just physical. Her poise, wit, and incredible acting talent earned her an Academy Award and respect across the globe. While many actresses were typecast for their looks, Sophia managed to balance sex appeal with dignity, a rare feat in that era. She became a global sex symbol not by playing into Hollywood stereotypes, but by owning her beauty with confidence and grace. Even today, Sophia Loren remains an icon of elegance, strength, and unapologetic femininity. Mamie Van Doren, the platinum bombshell. Mamie Van Doren was Hollywood's unapologetic wild child, blonde, bold, and impossible to ignore. As one of the iconic 3Ms, Marilyn Monroe, Jayne Mansfield, and Mamie herself, she carved her place in history not just for her looks, but for how proudly she owned them. In the 1950s, Mamie became one of the most postered pin-up girls of her time. With her platinum hair, sultry eyes, and famously curvy figure, she embodied the era's obsession with bombshell beauty. But she wasn't just another pretty face. Mamie brought attitude, confidence, and rebellion to the screen, challenging Hollywood's double standards long before it was common. She didn't shy away from being sexy, she embraced it on her own terms. And while others faded into studio control, Mamie remained fiercely independent, even daring to speak openly about taboos of the time. Mamie Van Doren wasn't just sexy, she was fearless. Elizabeth Taylor, beauty, power, and presence. Elizabeth Taylor wasn't just one of the most beautiful women in Hollywood, she was a force of nature. With her iconic violet eyes, porcelain skin, and unmistakable curves, she became a symbol of old Hollywood glamour from a very young age. Even in her teens, Elizabeth had a sensual screen presence that directors couldn't ignore. Studios initially tried to mold her into the typical good girl image, but her confidence, intensity, and curvaceous figure made her stand out. She owned her beauty, and her power, on her own terms. Whether playing Cleopatra or starring in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Taylor's presence was magnetic. Off-screen, her personal life made as many headlines as her films, but through it all, she remained unapologetically herself. Bold, emotional, and iconic, Elizabeth Taylor wasn't just well known for her looks, she was unforgettable for everything she was. Anita Ekberg, the eternal fountain goddess. Anita Ekberg wasn't just a star, she was a cinematic moment. Born in Sweden and crowned Miss Sweden in 1950, she took Hollywood by storm with her striking beauty and voluptuous figure. But it was in Federico Fellini's La Dolce Vita that she secured her place in film history. Her iconic scene, wading through Rome's Trevi Fountain in a flowing black dress, is still considered one of the sexiest and most symbolic moments in cinema. Ekberg's curves weren't just admired, they became her identity. Directors used her figure as visual poetry, bold, exaggerated, unforgettable. While she was often typecast for her looks, Anita brought confidence and mystery to every role. She didn't chase stardom, it followed her, frame by frame. In an era of glamour and fantasy, she became the real-life embodiment of both. Anita Ekberg didn't just play a goddess, she was one. Jane Russell, the outlaw bombshell. Jane Russell was the original bad girl of Hollywood, bold, beautiful, and impossible to ignore. Her breakout role came in Howard Hughes' controversial film The Outlaw, which was promoted more for Jane's curves than the plot itself. Hughes even designed a custom bra just to emphasize her famously full figure, though Jane later claimed she never wore it. The scandal only made her more famous. But Jane was no passive pin-up. She was sharp, witty, and in control of her image. While studios tried to sell her as a sex symbol, Jane brought intelligence and sass to every performance, especially in classics like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, opposite Marilyn Monroe. Unlike many of her peers, Jane didn't shy away from the attention, she used it to her advantage. Fiercely independent and refreshingly outspoken, Jane Russell wasn't just known for her body, she was respected for her brains, too. Gina Lollobrigida, the planet of beauty. Gina Lollobrigida wasn't just a star, she was a supernova in the golden sky of European and Hollywood cinema. Born in Italy, Gina first captured attention through beauty pageants and modeling, but her real power was revealed on the big screen. With her dazzling smile, strong features, and famously curvaceous figure, she quickly earned the nickname, La Lollo. Her impact wasn't limited to Italy. Hollywood couldn't resist her magnetic screen presence, and she starred opposite legends like Rock Hudson, Humphrey Bogart, and Frank Sinatra. Gina once famously said, "I am not a star, I am a planet." And honestly, no one disagreed. Her sensuality was natural, effortless, and completely unapologetic, making her a symbol of Mediterranean beauty and confidence. But she was much more than her looks. Gina was also a talented photojournalist and sculptor, proving she had artistry in more than just performance. In an era obsessed with perfection, Gina broke the mold with boldness, beauty, and brains. She didn't chase fame, she radiated it. Even decades later, Gina Lollobrigida remains a timeless symbol of strength, sensuality, and self-made success. Hedy Lamarr, beauty with a brain ahead of her time. Hedy Lamarr wasn't just one of the most stunning women in Hollywood, she was also one of the smartest. Born in Austria, she took Europe by storm with her daring performance in Ecstasy, 1933, and soon after, she conquered Hollywood with her exotic beauty, striking features, and graceful figure. But behind the glamour, Hedy carried a secret, a brilliant scientific mind. During World War II, she co-invented a frequency-hopping technology meant to protect Allied torpedoes from being jammed. That very invention later became the foundation for modern Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and GPS. Despite her genius, Hedy was typecast as the mysterious, seductive woman. Hollywood praised her looks but ignored her intellect. She once said, "Any girl can be glamorous. All you have to do is stand still and look stupid." A line filled with quiet rebellion. Admired for her beauty and curves, yes, but remembered today for a legacy far deeper. Hedy Lamarr proved you can be both breathtaking and brilliant, even in an era that rarely allowed women to be more than one thing. Bettie Page, the queen of curves and confidence. Bettie Page may not have been a traditional Hollywood actress, but her impact on pop culture was just as powerful, and arguably, even more revolutionary. With her signature jet-black bangs, playful poses, and famously well-endowed figure, Bettie became the most iconic pin-up model of the 1950s. Her photos ranged from sweet and innocent to daring and provocative, but Bettie always carried herself with confidence. She embraced her sexuality at a time when women were expected to hide it, and in doing so, she changed how femininity, beauty, and sensuality were viewed forever. Often seen in lingerie or playful costumes, Bettie's image was controversial, yet she never saw herself as scandalous. For her, it was just expression, fun, fearless, and free. Even after she stepped away from the spotlight, her influence only grew. From fashion to feminism, Bettie Page became a symbol of bold individuality. She wasn't just a woman with curves, she was a woman with courage. Today, Bettie remains an enduring icon of beauty, freedom, and unapologetic self-expression. Raquel Welch, the poster that changed everything. Raquel Welch's image in a fur bikini from 1 million years BC didn't just promote a movie, it defined an era. With her fierce gaze, perfectly sculpted figure, and unapologetic screen presence, Raquel became a global sex symbol overnight. Though her fame skyrocketed because of her appearance, Raquel wasn't content to just look good. She actively fought against being typecast, choosing roles that showed her strength and intelligence. But still, her hourglass shape and striking beauty often stole the spotlight. She once said, "Being a sex symbol is a heavy load to carry, especially when one is tired, hurt, and bewildered." That honesty made her even more admired. Raquel was different from many of her contemporaries. She balanced sensuality with strength, beauty with boldness. And unlike many who faded with time, she remained relevant for decades, always in control of her image. To this day, that iconic poster remains a symbol of 1960s pop culture, but Raquel Welch herself became something even greater, timeless. Diana Dors, Britain's blonde bombshell. Often called the British Marilyn Monroe, Diana Dors brought classic Hollywood curves across the Atlantic. With her golden hair, full figure, and confident attitude, she quickly became the UK's most glamorous export, and tabloids couldn't get enough. Diana wasn't shy about her looks. In fact, she played into them, starring in roles that highlighted her voluptuous image and sometimes even mocking the very stereotype she was boxed into. She wore tight dresses, walked with grace, and knew exactly how to light up a screen. But behind the sex symbol image was a woman with wit and independence. She challenged double standards in interviews, stood up to studio control, and navigated fame on her own terms. Though never quite reaching the Hollywood heights of Monroe or Loren, Diana Dors became a legend in her own right, blending pin-up glamour with British charm and bite. She once said, "I was the only sex symbol Britain ever produced, and it's a bit embarrassing really." That humor, along with her unforgettable presence, made Diana Dors a true original. Mae West, the original curvy rebel. Before Marilyn, before Jayne, there was Mae West. In the 1930s, when Hollywood was still clinging to conservative ideals, Mae burst onto the scene with wit, sass, and curves that made censors nervous. She wrote her own scripts, played strong, sensual women, and delivered double entendres like poetry. Her figure was full and unapologetic, and she used it as part of her brand, long before sex appeal was even a marketable term. Mae once quipped, "When I'm good, I'm very good. But when I'm bad, I'm better." She made her physicality part of her power, not something to be controlled by studios, but owned by herself. Her roles didn't just celebrate her curves, they centered on female control, pleasure, and confidence. In a time when women were told to behave, Mae West strutted. And in doing so, she rewrote the rules, both on and off the screen. Even decades later, she remains one of Hollywood's boldest originals. Rita Hayworth, the love goddess of Hollywood. With her flame-red hair, smoldering gaze, and iconic hourglass silhouette, Rita Hayworth became the ultimate love goddess of 1940s Hollywood. Men adored her. Women tried to imitate her. But behind the bombshell image was a woman far more complex. Rita's breakout role in Gilda, 1946, turned her into a global sensation. One glove-strip scene, fully clothed, was considered so seductive, it changed the way sensuality was portrayed on screen. Her curves were part of her legend, but so was her vulnerability. Born Margarita Cancino, she was pushed by studios to change her name, dye her hair, and reshape her identity, all to fit the ideal of an American star. But even within those pressures, Rita shined. She brought depth to every role, often playing characters far stronger than they appeared. Her beauty was undeniable, but her sadness was real. Rita once said, "Men go to bed with Gilda, but wake up with me." That quote captures the tragedy of fame, and the powerful woman who lived behind the fantasy.